With 39 runs needed from just 25 deliveries, Joe Root was dismissed, caught by the wicketkeeper looking to play an uppercut over third man. The hearts of English fans sunk as they, at that point, would have been favorites to take this one. Afghanistan roared back, and now England are out, officially out of the Champions Trophy, and Afghanistan now have a chance to advance to the semi-final stage. Samir Malik, my co-host, is with me today to discuss this brilliant match, this humdinger of a game between Afghanistan and England. Malik, how
What
you
a
doing?
moment! What a moment for the fans, for the Afghan fans, for the Champions Trophy. Unbelievable scenes in Lahore. Great game, went back and forth, and Afghanistan finally pulled it out. And England is off. It's over for them. They
Certainly,
join Pakistan and Bangladesh on the sidelines now.
on the plane home. Certainly one of the more exciting matches in this tournament, Samir. Afghanistan won the toss and they played to their strengths. They batted first. They scored 325 for 7. But Afghanistan actually started out shakily, Samir. They
Yeah,
lost
struggled,
3 wickets
struggled.
early.
Yeah, they
Yes,
struggled. Archer had a great spell. He got 3 wickets up front, and then Afghanistan started to rebuild at the midway point. I think they were like 90 odd something. So it didn't look like they were going to get up to a 300 plus score. But then Zadran, what a knock! The highest score in Champions Trophy history, 177 of 146 with six massive sixes.
yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes, Ibrahim Zadran there breaking the
Yep.
ICC Champions Trophy record that was set earlier this tournament by Ben Duckett, actually. So
Yep. And
lots
then
of
and
runs
then
being scored.
Omarzai and Nabi came from the back end of the innings, and they just took off from there. They were 212 at the 40 over mark, and then the last, uh, you know, 10 overs they scored 113. But to be honest, in the last over they only scored 2 runs, so they actually scored 111 in the 9 overs previous to the last.
Yes, over 220 runs scored Samir in the last 25 overs. That was brilliant stuff there from Afghanistan. So 177 to Zadran, Nabi Enterprise with 40. Omarzai got 41 and Shahidi got 40. England in their reply folded for 317 with Joe Root, the one of the best batsmen of this generation, getting a brilliant 120. Joss Butler managed 38. Harry Brook, a breezy 25. Duckett at the start got 38 runs. And Jamie Overton really tried to pull off what I would call a rescuing sort of act there, Samir, getting 32 at the end, but it was not meant to be.
Hey, listen, this was the most exciting and close game that you saw at the Champions Trophy. It went back and forth. It looked like England was going to win it at the end, but then the Afghan bowlers stood up. Right, that's the key on a team which obviously has had massive losses in the past. They've come across now and they've started to play like one of the top teams in the world. Remember, in the last World Cup in India, they had Australia on the ropes before Maxwell had that double hundred, right? So it's not as if this is a surprise. This is a really good team. Remember, before the tournament started, you said this is the group of death, and we agreed. And this is the group of death, and England is dead.
Absolutely. England is dead. Obviously, Afghanistan, they have a chance now. The equation is very simple for Afghanistan. Beat
win
Australia.
and win and go to the semifinals.
Beat
Hey,
Australia.
Australia is not going to be easy, but this is a grudge match, right? Remember, there's been a lot of political talk whenever England and Australia play Afghanistan. There was a lot of political talk in the World Cup in India. There was a lot of political talk before this game. Hey, listen, even the Afghan captain has come out and said, hey, listen, we cannot control what's happening away from the cricket field, right? And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the Western media has targeted these Afghan players for no reason. Once again, it's not their fault what's happening in their country. Most of these guys don't even go to their country half the time, right? They stay either in India, Pakistan, or the Middle East, and they're just trying to play good cricket. They represent Afghanistan, they're Afghanis, but unfortunately, the Western media has made a mockery of this situation here. The truth is, this is a really good team, it's an experienced team, and they're really, really good players. And I'm very happy that Afghanistan won today.
Yeah, no, certainly quite unfortunate where the political climate in Afghanistan and what's going on, and how everything is sort of coming out. But Samir, earlier, Joffer Archer became the fastest to 30 wickets, the fastest Englishman to 30 wickets, getting there in 30 games. It's amazing to me that Joffer Archer, he's been playing ODI cricket for such a long time. I was a little bit shocked to realize that he just got to 50 wickets.
Hey, listen, he got to 50 wickets because he's been injured too much, right? He's been playing for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
This is not a player who just made his debut yesterday, right? His debut was in May of 2019. So in 6 years, he's basically averaged 5 games a year, pretty much. And that just tells you everything that you need to know about Jofra Archer. Unfortunately, you know, he and England cricket, when he started in with England cricket, they hit a peak when they won the World Cup. And then since then, it's just been a downtrend, right? And that's been the case with Jofra Archer. Unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to keep himself healthy enough to be on the field.
Yeah, and England have a lot of issues there. Mark Wood, they're pulling up injured, and
Yes.
really, the Afghanistan, the strength of this Afghanistan team has always been their opening combination, and there's no way anyone could have predicted
So,
Afghanistan
so
getting such a
Afghanistan, their
score.
top 4 to 5 batsmen have all been scoring runs. Maybe
Yeah.
not at the same time, but individually in individual games, they've scored runs. And you saw what Zadran did today, right? Once again,
Mhm.
Zadran, no surprise that Zadran did what he did. But Gurbaz is the same thing. Gurbaz has been scoring a lot of runs. I remember Gurbaz had 151 not a few matches ago, right? So he's been scoring runs. These guys just have been scoring runs, and that's what you need as a team. You need to be scoring runs, and we've talked about this again and again. Runs is all that matters in cricket, and that's what Afghanistan is doing.
Over 320 runs, Samir, at the end of the first innings. A lot of pressure on England. This wicket, these pitches are good for batting, but the fact is there's a lot of pressure. The
Yeah.
washout between Australia
And
and South Africa yesterday really sort of threw the cat amongst the pigeons here and really
yep.
blew this group wide open. England must have felt the pressure.
No, no, England was under pressure already. Hey, listen, they scored 350 against Australia and they lost, right? Which team loses 350? Nobody, right? You scored 350, you expect to win. Now, again, today they scored 300 plus. They still lost, right? So it's just a hard, hard time for them. But, I'm going to be honest with you. We've had this discussion before. I think England is missing the form of Harry Brooks. Now, you said he scored a breezy 25 of 21. Yes, he did. But England doesn't need 25 or 21 from Harry Brooks. They need a big knock from him, and they didn't get that in this Champions Trophy. And they haven't gotten runs from Harry Brooks in the last 10, 12 games, right? That's the reason why England's been struggling. They were in India before this, and they got wiped 3-0, and now they lost another two. So they've literally lost five on the trot just in this last 1 month. And that is not England, right? England never loses five in a row in 1 month, but that's what they are right now. And they played decent cricket. Once again, I'm not going to say they played bad cricket. I think they've played decent cricket. The other teams have just been playing better.
England is certainly missing the runs of Herbrook for sure.
Yep, that was the difference in today's game.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say the form, but certainly the runs because he looks good. He looks to be hitting the ball well. He
Yeah,
looks in good order, but he's just not getting those results.
I
So
think look, England, just like Pakistan, there's going to be a lot of hoopla around what they're going to do now. Remember, English fans want to win, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to put Josh Butler under pressure. Is his captaincy on the line? There's going to be a lot of talk in the media. Sky Sports is going to be all over this, right? That's what they're going to be doing. So I think now is the time where England will also have to make certain changes. Maybe there is a conversation where now they want to bring in new ballers. I'm going to be honest. I think Jafra Archer, even though he balls pretty well here, he hasn't looked like a Jafra Archer of late, right? He reminds me of Shaheen Shah Afridi, and he looks like he's a T20 baller, to be honest. He does ball well in spurts. His first few overs, he gets wickets, but then he comes back in the last spell or in the middle of the innings and he just doesn't look the same, right? So he's a new ball baller. First 4 overs, that's all he can do now. That's what he looks to me.
Right. No, certainly. I mean, Joffer
And the same
Archer's
thing with
most
Mark Wood. Same thing with
right.
Mark Wood. He looks like a T20 baller, right? The England doesn't have ODI specialists. That's what I feel. I think these are all T20 ballers that they're bringing to the forefront.
Joffer Archer is most effective when he's bowling at 93 to 95 miles an hour. He's still bowling quickly, but he's not getting up to those heights. So
Yeah,
I
but
think
but as I said, I think it's like the T20 mentality, right? He balled his first 4 or 5 overs, and he's like, I'm done for the day, right? That's what it is, and that is just not a mentality that you can carry in an ODI game. It's a T20 mentality, and it's the same thing with Mark Wood. They ball really well up front, but then the back end of the innings, they struggle.
yeah. The other aspect of the England setup that I don't quite agree with, Samir, is James Smith at number three. I don't believe England could have a better number three than Joe Root. The truth is, England have two very, very explosive opening batsmen in Phil Salt and Ben Duckett. And someone like Joe Root, who is no slouch. Joe Root still scores at a hundred
Yes.
strike rate.
Hey,
Joe
listen,
Root can
Joe
come
Joe
in and
Root's
do
Joe
that
Root.
job.
Joe Root is Joe Root. He's one of the best batsmen of our generation, right? As far as his Test match career goes, I think in Test cricket, he probably is gonna be, remembered as the best batsman of this generation. Once again, there's a good chance that he's gonna go past Tendulkar in Test cricket. But in ODI, he's a good batsman and he's had some good runs. But at the same time, I don't think that it's Joe Root that is the reason that England is going to bat him at number 3 or number 4. He can bat anywhere he wants. I think the Jamie Smith move was the right move. It just didn't work out. That's what I think. I still believe that ODI cricket is moving towards this direction where the first 10 overs are very important to score runs quickly. And Joe Root does take his time a little bit, right? So I think Joe Root is perfect at 4. England just might need to persist with hitters up the order, which they're doing. And I think eventually it'll work out. And it would have worked out easily if Harry Brooks would have scored some runs, right? So actually, England has the right plan. It just didn't work out for them.
Well, we disagree on this one. Joe Root and Josh Butler, the two best players in the team. For me, one of them has to bat number three.
No,
So
no,
I'm not
I disagree.
necessarily
I completely disagree.
right.
Not in
I'm
an ODI game. If you're talking about T20 where Joe Root doesn't even play, I
mm,
agree. Butler should be batting at one down.
right.
But Butler is perfect where he is. The problem is Butler didn't want to come in when he came in. Remember, Harry Brooks got out in the 21st over. Butler's game plan is I come in the 35th, 40th, 45th over, close the game off, right? That's what I'm looking to do. When he comes in the 21st over, there's no way he's going to be able to do what he needs to do.
A 17th one-day 100 for Joe Root. How will he be remembered in ODI cricket?
I think he's going to be remembered in very good fashion. Once again, he doesn't have the same amount of runs that he has in Test cricket, but he's almost close to 7,000 runs, average of 48. He's a great ODI player too. Once again, is he the best ODI player ever? I don't think so, but he's definitely up there. But remember, he hasn't played a lot of ODIs lately either, right? England was experimenting, and then they came back to him and said, hey, "Listen, we're gonna go back to him as a stabilizer." That's what he is. But England has used other players to basically, try to, put pressure on opposing teams. And the pressure has come from players like Brooks, Butler, Liam Livingston. All of them had starts today, but nobody could convert.
We have a message here from TV and Cricket Power Play. Good day to you all. I predict Afghanistan to win. They have an underrated team. Now, my
Going to be
question
very
is
tough. Going to be very tough. Hey, listen, look, you got India and New Zealand sitting there. You still got to go through Australia. And if you do go through Australia, then you got to play India or New Zealand. It's going to be very tough for Afghanistan. They played incredible. I wish they're going to win this tournament. But, it's going to be very, very tough. And if they do, hats off to them.
I think it would be a very good story, TV and cricket power play, if Afghanistan is able to pull off this one and win this tournament. It's going to take that consistency throughout the tournament, throughout the playoffs, that they haven't really shown. They've certainly showed glimpses. They've shown that they have the skill. They've shown that they could
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
off
Hey,
these
listen, today,
performances.
today also the game was close because they dropped a lot of easy catches. Sitters, just sitters. So once again, I think Afghanistan is getting up there. It's a team on the ascent. I think it's going to do well. They've shown that they are capable of making that run. And let's see what they do against Australia. But hey, listen, if I'm taking the odds, I'm not taking the odds for Afghanistan at this point.
Let's see how it goes. This if they manage to win, it's gonna remind me of what Sri Lanka did in 1996
No,
when
I
they.
disagree. I disagree. Sri Lanka in 1996, we knew what they were capable of because they'd been doing it for 2 to 3 years before that. Remember Jayasuriya coming in and hitting those big boundaries early in the innings. Remember, it
Mhm.
was the advent of 2020 cricket at the start, right, where he used to just go in and smash the ball everywhere. I don't think Afghanistan has that, star power. Remember, Sri Lanka already had Jayasuriya on the up, and then on top of it, they had De Silva and Rana Tunga and all these experienced players behind them. I think Afghanistan is in a similar situation, but without the star power.
Now, this England team, since Josh Butler has taken over, he took over from Owen Morgan. He won the T20 World Cup in 2021. But since then, England has largely underachieved, failed to make the knockout stages of the last World Cup. Matthew Mott, the former English coach, was fired. Josh Butler then, there were whispers that, hey, Josh Butler potentially could also be under pressure. Josh Butler, in an interview yesterday, admitted to the media that he is absolutely under pressure. My opinion, Samir, is that Josh Butler is still the right person to lead this England team. I just don't see anyone else that I think
I
should
agree.
take over.
I agree. Hey, listen. Any international captain who's not winning is under pressure in cricket, especially for the top 10 teams. Okay, so hey, listen. You don't think Sri Lanka and West Indies, looking on the outside, their captains are under pressure? You don't think Rizwan and Pakistan is under pressure? You don't think that Bangladesh is under pressure? All these teams are. If you're an international team, especially if you're in the top 10, you're under pressure. Josh Butler was just basically stating the obvious when he was asked the question. I don't think Josh Butler is worried about his captaincy.
No,
As a player, he is, an automatic selection in the ODI and the T20 setup. And then, hey, listen, once again, things have to go right. I think England setup is going to look at it from a perspective of the next World Cup for the ODIs. And they're going to make a decision and say, hey, listen, are we going to have Josh Butler as captain for the next ODI World Cup? If not, then they're going to move to somebody else, right? That's what it is. It's just a decision that you have to make. And the next ODI World Cup, I think, is in 2027, right?
mm-mm.
So where's the next World Cup being played?
India and Sri Lanka.
Okay, so hey, listen, once again, you've seen that England has performed poorly in this part of the world recently, right? So is England going to make a change? Remember, they just went to India, they lost 3-0. They don't want to take the same team again in 2027, older, and have the same problems, right? So the question is going to be, is Joe Root going to be on that plane to 2027? Is Butler going to be on that plane to 2027? Is Jofra Archer, Mark Wood, Adil Rashid, any of these players on that plane to 2027? That's the question, right? And it's a question that's going to be asked of all the teams now going forward. Pakistan's going to have to answer the same question. England's going to answer the same question. Bangladesh is going to answer the same question. And as these teams drop off, everybody's going to answer this question.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any real obvious replacement for Butler as captain.
Hey,
Certainly, he will
listen,
be in the team.
England has a lot of talent, right? Phil Salt,
Yeah.
Duckett, Smith, Harry Brooks. These are all younger players, right? They want to combine these younger players with the experience of a Butler and a Root. But to be honest, 2027 is so far away. My real question was, is Root going to be there as a 37-year-old, right? And the same question is going to be asked of Butler. Is he going to be there as a 37-year-old? That's going to be the real question. I, if you ask me today, I think both of them are automatic selections for
Yes,
2027,
yes,
but
yes. I
it's so
certainly
far
agree.
away.
Yeah. I certainly agree that both will be there. Now, looking forward, Samir, England obviously out of the tournament. Afghanistan obviously looking to win that next match against Australia. You and I both believe that would be very, very tough for Afghanistan. But the last 50 over World Cup, I mean, it took Glenn Maxwell playing an unbelievable innings, making 200 for Australia to turn over the Afghan outfit.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Hey, listen, these conditions do favor Afghanistan, right? But at the same point, what I'm going to tell you, and I've had this discussion before with you, that Australian DNA, right? That's going to come to the forefront, especially in a knockout game, right? Remember, we were saying, hey, listen, in the South Africa Australia game that got washed out, I thought that South Africa would probably be favorites, very just by a smidge, but they would be favorites. But I think now this Australia Afghanistan game, I got to go with Australia again. I think it's going to be played in Lahore. So remember, both teams have played one game each in Lahore, right? Afghanistan just won today's game, and Australia won the game against England, right? And now this game here is going to be a very important game. And my feeling is that Australia is going to be on top of their game. Remember, Australia, when it comes to knockout games, it's a completely different story.
England now, all they can do is really play a spoil sport by beating South Africa and putting South Africa in a position when they are dependent on Australia to keep them in the tournament.
Hey, listen, I think just like the Pakistan Bangladesh game, I think the England South Africa game is going to be similar. It's going to be played for pride, right? Pakistan, of course, wants to win at least a game in their host Champions Trophy, cup, right? Same way, England and South Africa, England's going to be playing for pride. So once again, hey, listen, England's shown that they're very good on any given day, and even today they were a really good team. They just got outclassed by a better team, right? So South Africa has to be careful here too. And remember,
Well,
South Africa usually chokes in situations like this.
right. I mean, here's the difference. The Bangladesh Pakistan is a dead rubber.
Yes.
England and South Africa is
No,
not.
it's not. It's not. For South Africa, it's not. For England,
South
it's a
Africa is
dead
not.
rubber, but England's playing for pride. Usually, when you play for pride, it's a different story.
Right. All right. So there you have it, fans. England knocked out of the ICC Champions Trophy, going down to Afghanistan by 8 runs. Afghanistan now has the opportunity to win against Australia to advance. If they lose, they're out. Now, tomorrow we have Pakistan versus Bangladesh coming up, which is essentially a dead rubber, Samir.
Dead rubber, playing for pride, man. That's it. Playing for pride. Whoever wins can avoid the bottom.
All right. Nothing to discuss really
Yeah,
with
nothing
that
to
game.
discuss. We moved to Afghanistan, Australia, which is probably a virtual quarterfinal, right? That's what we're looking for. And I think I'm going with Australia, but I'm going to tell you right now, Afghanistan has shown us enough to say, hey, listen, they're going to be competitive on that day.
All right. TV and cricket power play here. Australia will not reach the final. Their bowling will let them down.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. Hey, listen, look, Australia is in a tough position. They don't have Captain Cummins. They don't have Hazelwood. They don't have Stark. But once again, Australian DNA, man, that's when they step up. This could be a tournament where you could see new guys step up and once again show the depth. Remember the depth that we saw in the Australian Indian Test series, right? Where Hazelwood went down and Boland comes up and does the same exact things, right? So maybe this is where Australia gets that depth and the new era starts. Where once again, we're not saying that Hazelwood is out or Stark is out or Cummins is out, but hey, listen, once again, just like we discussed about England, some of the Australian senior players, this might be their final hurrah before Australia switches on to the next generation.
All right. Afghanistan lives to fight. England will join Pakistan and Bangladesh on their way home. Fans, you've been watching all our cricket and the massive hit cricket show and our continued coverage of the Champions Trophy. See you tomorrow to for a short sort of roundup, just discussing what happens in that Pakistan Bangladesh game. We know it's a dead rubber, but
Yeah, we'll discuss it, and then we'll do more on Afghanistan, Australia.
absolutely, that will be the big one.
Yep.
See
Take
you
care,
then.
guys.